we're going to do something a little bit different this RTC meeting. I've never done this. First, I do want to say this is definitely the nicest venue of any RTC. And I know for those of you watching on YouTube, because these videos always make it up there, we are in a very charming restaurant overlooking a pristine lake. And I think just about every RTC member has some sort of alcoholic beverage in front of them. So they know how to do it over here in East Hampton. And you know, there is an East Hampton in Connecticut. It's just not the one in New York. But anyway, I'm going to talk for a minute or two. I'm going to show you this little video, and then I'm going to take your questions. But first of all, I'm running for the United States Senate. I've never run for anything. I am not a politician. The thought of going to government is not necessarily something that appeals to me. Because, you know, like most conservatives, I understand that the government destroys wealth, and I'd rather be in the private sector creating wealth, which is what I've been doing for my career. I own a brokerage firm that is based in Westport, Connecticut. I employ over 100 people. I have 6 offices around the country. I have over $2 billion in customer assets that I invest. I do investment banking, money management, retail brokerage. I have some mutual funds. And part of my career, most of my career in the investment industry, I have been very focused on government, on monetary policy, on regulatory policy, and fiscal policy. And as a result of what's been happening in Washington, I've understood how destructive Washington has been to our economy. Its actions, the actions of the Federal Reserve to undermine the value of our money, of Congress, to undermine the competitiveness and the productivity of our economy. And my investment philosophy over the years has largely been shaped by, an aversion to Washington politics, by trying to protect the wealth of my clients from the bad policies coming out of Washington. But the problem is they're now so bad that it's not simply about financial survival. It's about the survival of our nation. It's not just about protecting my clients' wealth, but protecting their heritage, and I think that's in danger. I think that everything that the government has done in the last few years has simply made our economic crisis worse. I think that we've set the stage for a far greater catastrophe that's going to hit sometime in the next couple of years. And I want to be there when it does. I mean, I want to try to defuse the bomb before it explodes. I don't think we have a lot of time. I've said, that I'm looking for one term in the United States Senate. I mean, 1 year and 6 years is pretty much all I think I can handle there. But I don't think we have more than 6 years. I think if I can't go to Washington and do what career politicians refuse to do, then it's going to be too late. I don't think that people who care about re-election or politicians are going to solve these problems. They don't understand them, or it's not important to them. What's important to them is getting re-elected. I couldn't care less about that. And that's why I'm going to make the hard decisions that politicians refuse to make to address these problems right now. A lot of people talk about we need a balanced budget amendment. They've been talking about the balanced budget amendment since I was born, and the budget's not balanced. And it's easy to be for a balanced budget amendment as you vote to increase the deficit, to vote for every spending bill or every increase in the debt ceiling. What I want to do is I want to go to the United States Senate, and one of the first votes that they're going to ask me to cast as a senator is going to be a vote to increase the debt ceiling. And I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to lead a filibuster in the United States Senate to separate the Republicans who want to cut the deficit from the ones who just want to talk about it. Because we don't need any of those amendments. We don't have to repeal anything. All we have to do is not vote to increase the debt ceiling. I need 40 other Republicans to stand with me. And the deficit spending stops with me. And we can force the government to cut spending. Right now the government is spending almost $4 trillion a year. That is twice what it spent 10 years ago. The country can't survive it. We're already broke. This is just driving more nails in the coffin. We have to do the right thing. We are running out of time. There is a financial crisis coming. There's a currency crisis coming. There's a collapse of the dollar. There's runaway inflation. There's sky-high interest rates. Unemployment can be twice as bad as it is right now if we don't do something about it. Anyway, let me show you this little video, a little bit about me, and then I will answer any of your questions on my campaign, my strategy, the issues, whatever you want. And you're the first guys to see this, so let me know.
An expert on the economy, he forecast the financial crisis of 2008.
What was it that you saw that others missed?
You were on my show an awful lot. I appreciate it, because you were one of the only people that saw this coming and had cojones to say.
Nobody sounded the alarm louder than Peter Schiff.
Every senator is going to know I'm there, and not a single one of them is going to like it.
Send Peter Schiff to Washington? That town will never be the same again. Join us at SchiffForSenate.com.
Who's got the first question?
Yeah. Let's just go questions as fast as you can ask them. Anybody?
I got a birthday present for my son, a book called Big Short. What do you think?
I haven't read it, but we were in on it. Unfortunately, I run a retail brokerage firm, and we did have a hedge fund that shorted subprime mortgages, and we had the same trade on as Paulson did. Unfortunately, because of all the securities regulations, most of my clients weren't allowed to invest. So here's a situation where the government protected my clients from making a lot of money because you had to be an accredited investor. You had to make a very substantial investment. So some of my clients got involved and they did really well. But yeah, that was a trade that very few people, unfortunately, were able to participate in. But from my perspective, a lot of people saw it. A lot of people knew that housing was going to collapse. They just, unfortunately, weren't in government. So I haven't read that book, but have you read mine, Crash Proof 2.0?
No, I haven't.
Well, pick that one up. And I have a new book coming out in 2 weeks called How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. And that explains economics through a cartoon story. And I think it's great for the country right now because I think it really puts this financial crisis in a perspective that anybody can understand. And it's important right now because there's a lot of ignorance out there. The government, the media are trying to blame the financial crisis on capitalism, on the free market. It wasn't capitalism, it was socialism. It was central government planning, it was government-created moral hazard, it was the Federal Reserve, it was artificially low interest rates. It was all the things that the government did to screw up the free market that led to the crisis. And now, of course, the government is responding to the crisis with even more government, which is why it's just going to get worse.
One more question?
At the Tea Party, did you say that you were just going to run for one term?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I've been speaking at a lot of these Tea Party rallies. I spoke at 3 of them on April 15th. I was in New Haven, in Hartford, and in Greenwich. But one term is pretty much all I think we have. I don't think you can't really spend your time trying to get reelected, out fundraising. There are things that need to be done, and getting reelected is not one of them. And I think if I can do the right thing, then I won't need to stay there for a second term. And if I don't, then I don't think there's going to be much left to govern, because I'm not going to want to be part of the country 6 years from now. It's going to be a complete disaster. It's going to have to hunker down, and prepare for the worst.